So you want to use the laser cutter. Let's figure it out. Let's figure out how to do that and get you set up. So Mr. Goop Road here, going to walk you through how to do that. First thing you should do is let the teacher know. So if it's me, let me know, or whoever teacher, what is it that you want to laser cut? Let us know the size, the approximate size of what you're wanting to laser cut. What type of material? Is it going to be acrylic, wood, glass? There's lots of different materials we can put in there. What is it for? What is the thing you're laser cutting for? So there should be like a purpose for it, and kind of like that goes along with the why. So why are you laser cutting something? So let us know that stuff to get you initially approved. And then you have to design it. So make sure you do the Adobe Illustrator intro lesson so you know how to use Adobe Illustrator so you can draw up and make your design. So I'm going to show you a couple things with that, because there are a couple specific things with doing laser cutting. So when you're using Adobe Illustrator, so again, I found that by clicking the Windows button, going to Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to create a new document. Go to Print, change this to inches. We've seen that before. Now, here's what's very important is you want to put this should be your material size. The material size that you want to laser cut, or like the top of your project. Let's say, again, you're making a table and you want the table top to be etched. Let's just say the size of that table is 12 by 12. So I create that. So here is my material. Maybe my image won't go over this whole thing, and that's okay. But let's say the table top, let's just pretend this is going to be a piece of acrylic that I'm going to put over a piece of wood. So this is a 12-inch by 12-inch piece of acrylic I'm going to put on top of a piece of wood. With that acrylic, let's say, well, I got to cut it out. So here's one of the most important things with laser cutting. If I'm cutting out the shape, any kind of shape, whether it's a rectangle, circles, whatever, I'm going to draw that shape. And then the fill, if I don't want it to etch that color, I'm going to have no fill. So let's say I did green. That laser cutter is just going to go zzz, 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 go back and forth. It's going to etch this green into there. It's going to take a very long time. So we don't want to do that. So let's change that to no fill. So now this outside box, if you notice right now, it has a stroke of 1 point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change it to 0.001. Now notice that. It says 0.001 points. That is the thickness of the edge of this box. Now the reason why we do that is when the laser cutter sees that thickness, when it sees that 0.001, the laser cutter is like, oh, okay, well that line, because of that number, that tells me I need to cut that shape out. So imagine your piece of acrylic is bigger. It's going to come bigger than that, bigger than 12 by 12 most likely. The piece of acrylic will be like, like this big. So let's have the laser cutter cut out our 12 by 12 for us so it's nice and precise. So that 0.001 for the shape I'm cutting out. Now if I didn't do that, let's say I accidentally forgot to do that and I just made that 1 point. What would happen is that it would etch that rectangle. It would etch the black line. It wouldn't cut it out. It would just etch it. So again, I have to, anything I want to cut out, 0.001 on Adobe Illustrator. I got to do that. Let's say I wanted to cut out a circle. So here's my circle. I'm going to hold shift so it's a precise circle. I want the circle cut out. So now notice that's 0.001. So this circle will cut out. Anything that I do not want to cut out, you can paste images, you can do text, as we talked about, you can fill shapes. Let's just say I want the star, and I don't want that cut out, so I'm going to increase the stroke. I can fill it. So I'm going to make that red. I'm going to Control-C, Control-V on that. Paste another one. Control-C, Control-V. I'm going to change, whoops. I'm going to change the fill of this. Let's do a lighter color. Let's try this orange. Now, what's going to happen with the laser cutter, The laser cutter will cut this square out because that's 0.001. It will cut this circle out because that's 0.001. Now these two shapes it will not cut out. It will etch these in, kind of like it's like a printer, almost printing it in, but it's more so burning it in. And what's going to happen is the black will burn deeper because it's darker. The red will burn not as deep as the black, and then the lighter orange should look lighter. It won't burn. The lighter orange will not burn as deep as the darker red. So just to kind of give you ideas. So we can actually etch photos and those types of things with different colors. The color doesn't show up, but I'm just trying to help you understand that the darker it is, the deeper it will etch. Okay, so now let's say we're ready. We're ready. Here's our absolutely beautiful design. We're ready to put on our project. The next step is, so we designed it. So step 3 is let's get the equipment on. So what you'll need to do is stand in front of the laser. So stand in front of the laser cutter. On the back left corner, so with your left arm, you'll kind of reach to the back left corner. There's a rocker switch. You're going to turn that on. The laser cutter will make like a beep kind of noise, and then you'll see it probably moving. The air compressor switch, you got to turn that on. The air compressor switch is on top of the big metal filter that stands up near there. There's a rocker switch on that compressor. You turn it on, you'll hear it kind of, it's like a motor running. Air filter, you got to turn the air filter on. So you walk around to the front of that air filter. Again, it's that big metal tower. There's a button that's lit up in red. You got to push that, and that will then turn to green. Now, depending on the thickness of your material, you might need to adjust the bed of the laser to lower it, because otherwise that can damage the sensor, because there's a sensor on there. So you can ask me or the teacher, we can help you out with that if you got to do that or not. And then the material, so whether you got acrylic or wood or whatever, make sure it's not all dusty, and you want to place that in precisely in the upper left corner of the laser cutter bed. So you got to carefully lift up the glass and then put that in the laser cutter. Now, once you do that, so you got these 3 steps done, then call teacher over, call me over. I'll take a look at your design and give you some suggestions. I'll just help double check, make sure you did the 0.001 kind of stuff, and make sure you're good to go. And I'll look over your settings to make sure you are ready to send this to print. Now, here are some additional steps. So this is you have to be very precise with this. So let's say I okayed this. You're ready to print. We go File, Print. Now, printer. We have to select the proper printer. It's the Epilog Helix 24. So room 112, Epilog Helix 24. So I click that. Nothing here we have to change. Now notice this here, placement. I do not want the placement of this to be directly in the middle. We're aligning stuff in the upper left. So click upper left. You should not have to mess with anything else here. Then I also need to go to setup. So I go to setup, just click continue, and I should be on the Epilog Helix. I have to go to preferences to adjust some more settings. So now if you look here, we have some different things to take a peek at. Autofocus should be on. Center engraving should be off. Send the laser should be on. This should be on. Now it depends on what you're doing. Raster is if you're etching like images, text, whatever. This is the stuff that's not cutting through. Vector is when you're cutting through. So if you're doing both, so I'm doing both. I'm cutting through here. So this would be vector. This would be raster. I'm doing both, so I'll click combined. Let's say I'm just cutting. If I'm just cutting, I'll switch it to vector. If I'm just doing images, I'll select raster. But I'm doing both with this project, so I'm going to do combined. Project or piece size. What I want you to put here is put the size of our laser cutter. It's 24 horizontal, and the vertical is 18. So that's something you'll have to switch. And then here's where things, I don't want to say get tricky, you just got to be precise. You have to adjust the settings here, depending on what you're cutting. So based on what you are laser cutting, you may or may not have to adjust some of those speed and power settings. So if I look at this document here and I should have some of this printout by the laser cutter. So if you look here, if I'm doing acrylic, we have a 40-watt laser cutter. I'm doing acrylic. Let's say I'm cutting through 1/8 inch. Most of our acrylic is 1/8 inch. Notice it says 12% speed, 100% power. If I'm photo engraving, text engraving, those are all right around 90, so 90% speed and 70-ish, 75% power. I can kind of go down. There's other materials here. We got settings for wood as well. You can pause here. Here are the settings I would like you to use. So these, just from experience, sometimes we're not cutting all the way through the 1/8 inch if we're using 12% speed. So we got to slow the laser down a little bit so it can spend more time and get through. So when you're cutting the acrylic, the 1/8 inch acrylic, 8% speed, 100% power. When you're etching acrylic, make sure it's at 90% speed, 75% power. And then if you're engraving wood, those numbers there. If you're trying to cut through wood, make sure you talk to me so I can help you figure out if we're actually capable to cut through it. There's only certain types of woods we can actually do that with. So I'll get that out of the way for now. So let's say I'm cutting through 1/8 inch acrylic, so this is already set for me. Good to go there. I click OK, and then I click print, and then I click print here. So now what it's doing is it just sent it, well, it said air state because it's not turned on, but this was just sent to the laser cutter. So if this is good to go, all we need to do is, after you get a teacher to check your file and all that and everything's set up right, all we have to do once it's approved, you're ready to print, is you just got to click go on the laser cutter and it will start cutting it and doing its thing. But you got to watch it. Just make sure that it's so you got to make sure that nothing's lighting on fire. So watch it for a little bit, make sure it's good to go, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do, and make sure stuff is not lighting on fire. If it is lighting on fire, come get me. Let me know and stop it. You know, just push the stop button. If it is lighting on fire, open up the glass and blow it off. Come get me so we can help you out with that. But usually that doesn't happen. Also, when the laser cutter is going, if there's the bright light, do not stare into the bright light. It's not good for your eyes. And again, any type of questions, you just let me know. But this lesson here is to help you to kind of get set up, get moving, to speed up our process so I can essentially tell you, hey, you're good to go. Just print it. Boom. So ladies and gentlemen, thanks for checking this out. Enjoy your laser cutting adventures.